Since you talked about the sexual assault in the military, let's go there. That was a really, really important bill for you. Can you tell us about it and where it stands now, where you think it stands?
So in the book, I talk a lot about how sometimes issues pick you. You don't actually pick them. And that was what happened to me. So, and I have a lot of examples of that. But, you know, it had been mentioned to me twice by a friend, oh, you need to look at the sexual assault in the military issue. It's really serious. It's a real problem. And I said, I will.
And the numbers had really increased.
I said, I'll look at it. I'll look at it. And I noticed enough that women that were serving abroad in Iraq and Afghanistan couldn't get abortion services unless they disclosed that they were raped. And a lot of women didn't want to disclose that. So I knew there was an issue about not wanting to disclose, but I didn't know what the issue was. I was just trying to fix the problem to give them full health care privileges while they're serving abroad. And then we also learned that year, this is my first year in the Senate, that, or actually it was the second year because I wasn't on armed services my first year and a half. We learned that if you were convicted of rape, that a lot of rapists were still serving in the military. And I couldn't understand how that's possible. How can you be a convicted rapist and still be serving? So we knew there were two problems, and we tried to fix those. Then another friend said, you know, you really need to look at sexual assault in the military. It's a real, and I said, okay. And they're like, and I'm working on this documentary, and as soon as it's done, I want you to watch it. So I get the documentary. It's called The Invisible War. And if you have any time and care about this, you should please see it. But it was so heartbreaking to watch these men and women who want nothing but to die for our country tell stories about how they were brutalized, then when they either tried to report, disbelieved, or blamed, and then, if they did report, retaliated against. And these were men and women who, you know, are at the top of their game, extraordinary people, people who, you know, one victim, one survivor, she looked like she was a 17-year-old girl. I mean, it was the most devastating part was to have to call her father to tell him she was no longer a virgin and what happened to her. And hearing the father tell the story also breaks your heart. So I just said, I'm going to fix this. And I had an opportunity. Came up the next week. Would you like to be chair of one of the subcommittees? These are the ones that are available. And one of the ones that was available was the personnel subcommittee. And I said, I want that one. And the second I got that committee, I said, I'm going to hold a hearing on this. And I'm going to hold this hearing differently. I'm going to have my first panel all be survivors, so we can hear from them first. Then we can hear from the brass and hear what their answers are, but make them sit and listen to these survivor stories. And that started a whole whirlwind. Things started moving very quickly. And we soon saw how the institution of the Department of Defense closed ranks. They immediately started saying, you cannot change how we deal with this, because if you do, it will undermine good order and discipline. And when they uttered those words, my head exploded. I said, how could possibly 19,000 sexual assaults and rapes and unwanted sexual contacts last year alone be good order and discipline? How can only 1 in 10 of those rapes being reported be good order and discipline? And this never stopped. And they kept saying, no, 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 you cannot change it. And so our solution was to listen to the survivors and ask them, why is only 1 out of 10 of these cases being reported? And to the T, I didn't report because I didn't trust the chain of command. I didn't believe the chain of command would do anything. I feared or witnessed retaliation. And so there was a real problem with the command structure, putting these cases under the rug, not prosecuting them, giving slaps on the wrist, but certainly not believing the victim and not moving forward with a real investigation. And so our solution was take the decision-making out of the chain of command, give it to trained prosecutors who actually understand this crime and how to prosecute it, and have that objectivity. We worked really hard. We made sure survivors' voices were heard. We got 55 votes out of 60. We did not overcome our filibuster. But the fact that we had 55 votes and had a range of senators from Rand Paul to Ted Cruz to Chuck Grassley to Bernie Sanders and Barbara Boxer and me shows that this was not an ideologic issue. This was whether or not you were willing to take on the status quo, whether or not you were willing to stand up to the Department of Defense and do what was right by these men and women. And this is a battle we are going to keep fighting. But it came to me. I had to be asked twice to look at the issue before I fully understood what had to be done.